Welcome to Shapify Experiences, a media web podcast where we have been talking about the future of digital experiences. From design, front-end, implementation, delivery, strategy, AI, this is some of the topics that we have been talking here. And today, Marcio Spinola. Hello, Marcio.
Hi, Nelson.
Marcio have been working for the past 10 plus years as a VP of product, starting from OutSystems.
Yeah.
Can you present a little bit about your journey?
Okay, I'll try to be brief. First, thanks, Nelson. Thanks, everyone listening. So I was 10 years in OutSystems. That was kind of 2 lives because I did sales engineering. So in the wild, showing people.
Didn't went directly to VP.
No. You start as an individual contributor and you do some good work and hopefully you grow. And in the second phase, let's say, that's when I started in product. That's where I found my passion, besides the passion of OutSystems. And since then, I've been working in product. So I finished the 10.5 years in OutSystems. Then I was 2 years in Vision Box. It's another great Portuguese product. Then I moved to English/Romanian startup, FinTech OS.
Okay.
We did a lot. We transformed the product, and now I'm starting in a new adventure with AirHelp. So hopefully helping everyone. So if you have a delay in a flight,
exactly,
take note of my name and
AirHelp.
Yeah, I've been doing all these things.
Okay, and maybe we can go a little bit through that companies. Like first in OutSystems, it was the company where you have been more time.
Yeah.
What was the challenges that you found there in terms of like as a product? Like the OutSystems have a different is a different kind of product, I imagine, because is a product to make products or to make software. What was the challenges there?
Yeah, I didn't pick an easy life. That's for sure. So in OutSystems, I had these two jobs. Let's say the first mission was actually helping promote the technology, help customers. So I was in the field doing what we call pre-sales or sales engineering. So one day I would be in Netherlands, the other day I would be in South Africa, and it was always about this early days where there was no name for what we were doing. There was no low code. This was between 2009 to 2014. And it was all about proving the value. You come in and people don't understand what you do because there's indirection. You have a product to build products. You have a tool to build what you're actually thinking. So that means you need to do this big bridge between what is the thing you need that you can actually build, so I can show that I can build it much faster.
Yeah, you can show example. You can show a little bit for them to see what's possible.
Yeah, and that was the art of the possible, because one thing is to explain it and people say, okay, now I get it, and therefore I don't believe it because it looks too good.
Yeah.
And that's why we moved into show it. And this was really the mission. Like you get in a plane, you land, and you immediately start talking with the customer saying, okay, tell me your hardest project, the one in the in a shelf that nobody opens. Yeah. And then you say, okay, by Wednesday I'll show you that build. And then on Wednesday we throw a curveball. We say, now tell us something completely crazy. Because we wanted to prove that it was not about building fast, it was about keep changing it fast. And then by Friday they would just say, whoa. And you would leave this unbeatable mark because nobody else could get there and do in such a week, build so much and change. So that was kind of the mission. And then 2014, Paulo had a lot of conversations with Forrester, Reimer, and they come up with the low-code space, the name. Yeah. I don't like the name, by the way, but that's for another podcast.
But it's the standard now, so if you like or not...
Back then I didn't like it because people confused it with low-cost. Okay. And that was the thing people said. And for me, it was about high productivity. But the fact is, the names stick. And this was a new stage. That means you would get through a door and people say, oh, you guys are OutSystems. And people actually were eager to see what you were about to show. So that changed the mechanic and the whole momentum in the market. And this was a stage where we had other investment rounds. And I was invited, this case by Paulo, to lead the product organization. And this started, my
start
life
there
in product.
okay.
This is a phase where it was no longer about proving that this is possible. It was more about proving that all these copycats, because every week there would be another company with the same website promising the same 10 times. And it was about where is the space for us? Because everybody will try to copy. Where can we go? What is the angle of keep growing? Because doubling every year, it's
hard.
It's hard, and you need to be very creative. So, and that was the challenge. So that was a bit the two lives in OutSystems, and experience was always there as the key differentiator. After that, I don't know if you want.
No, maybe
we can
still,
build down.
Yeah, still a bit there. Like so, you moved to VP of product, but at the beginning, at the beginning, how it is to be in front of the product. And to make that shift before, I'm seeing two challenges here. Was the first time that you're making that?
Yes.
So what you find as a challenge to be the first time, but at the same time, how you could think to make the product something different? How you help the product to find that niche that you're saying that is here, that that have value, that we can differentiate ourselves.
So the first part was establishing a practice. So there was already product management. Like any company, the founder is the CPO. He's giving the direction. So my challenge there was make sure that I would learn fast enough to establish that practice. And defining where we wanted to go, then assemble the team that would help in that direction. And that was the challenge. So a mix of hiring new people, bringing people for other areas of the company to make sure that we created this brain of understanding how we maximize the value. Then actually doing the job, like what's the direction? This is not a 0 to 1, like at that stage. So when I joined the company, we were doing 10 million revenue. When I moved to product, we were around 75, I think. So when I left, then it was 200 plus. So finding this growth, it was about, okay, so what's the essence of the value we're giving? And then for me, it's all about value. So what more value can this platform give? And how can we get more return for this value? That was kind of the philosophy. Yeah. In practice, what we did was, okay, so we clearly can build apps, okay, faster than anyone. But then the thesis was, okay, but not all apps are the same. If you build something, for a small department, to book their vacation, the value behind that application, even if it's the same month of building, is completely different when you build a system that manages an oil terminal. So the first notion was saying, okay, it's not about just being fast in the development. It's about what are you building? What's the value behind it? And this created
how critical the system is.
And this is where we created this charter saying, okay, not all apps are the same. So there's two, because we wanted to keep it simple, like McKinsey style, you only have two axes. It was about how critical is the application. So if my application, you build it fast, but if it goes down, is somebody getting annoyed? Are you getting churn? Are you getting in the newspaper? There's their levels. And the closer you are to the top, that means there's more value in what you build. And you deserve a bit of that value. The other angle, the other axis was about, are we building for internal employees? Meaning that you're giving something for them to be operationally efficient, but it's not like they can choose. Or are you building for the B2C? Meaning people are picky. Pixels matter. And this was the other axis, because you can build fast, but you need to be pixel perfect. Then we had to differentiate. And based on this charter, this is where we started arguing that, okay, we need to make sure that we keep the value of being fast, easy to use, but we want to be building applications that are more critical. And then because there was another space, it was not just low code, it was also MXDP, multi-experience platforms. We wanted to show that when it gets to B2C and the perfection, we could be perfect and fast. And that also put in the roadmap the things that we need to make sure that we played in that field. But that was the notion, like go for the apps with value and you will get a bigger slice of that.
Yeah. And that actually is imagine that even in other companies, that concept is the base of the...
Where is your value? And then how you deliver it better than anyone else.
Anyone. Of course, the part about if it's critical or not, I was thinking that it's specific for OutSystems, but at some point in the others is also there is also a part that if you make something that maybe instead of saying critical, if he's something really important for the company in terms of, in other words, is critical. The same. It will.
That's the impact, and I think you always get back a bit
Exactly.
of the value you give. So that means you need to aim for a valuable problem. And I think that was one of the keys. So that angle of, okay, let's aim for the value and make sure that you differentiate. That was key, because if you think about, it's even happened today with AI coming in. It's easy to grab the non-critical applications. So that means if you go to the critical ones, that means you have a space that is more valuable, but also harder to achieve by the others. So that means the stickiness of your product is bigger. But that's kind of in the value side of things. You also need to think about what is the emotional impact of your product, which is also, that was also one of the other angles.
Yeah, and in case of OutSystems, that part of the emotional part and the experience of OutSystem itself is a little bit of the most of the products that I can think, because it's not the end product, or is the end product, but it's a product to create software. So it is
it's a mean to an end. You're not selling the end, so that's hard. Here the angle was, first, the emotional response typically is for the actual application. That's where you get the gratification. So that means that we had to map in kind of the curve. There was the curve of value with what kind of application. Then there was this emotional angle of, so what's happening through this journey? So there's you see it the first time and you feel, okay, this is too good to be true, I don't like it. Then there's the angle of, okay, now I saw it, it's true. But then you go into a deep emotions, because if you're in a business side, that means I can get what I want faster. Sounds perfect. But we were selling to IT leaders, which means you can have different response. You could have the response of, okay, this is great, 10 times faster. I don't need such a big team.
Yeah.
And then
it starts having other kind of worries, like, okay, this is fast, but what happened to me? What?
Am I losing my job? Will I fire my team? So this is where it was also important to shift the way we position, because even though on paper you look like, okay, efficiency, now you need to play well what that efficient means for you. It means that if you're a great developer, more proficient, you need to the thing you need to put in their head is not paint by numbers. Because that's how the reaction sometimes was. Okay, so I'm doing all these great pieces of art, my code, and now you're just giving me paint by numbers. You won't have the emotional response. They will just say, I didn't study all these years for that. So you need to create a different image on their head. You need to put this more of a Iron Man suit, meaning you still have your power, but we are putting a low-code platform around you to make more, fly higher. So this, you needed to play this angle. The other side was we start seeing in practice that a lot of the people that our partners were hiring and the customers were hiring, they were not the developers. And they were actually very proficient. And it's not like we designed by default to be the citizen developers. We just start seeing it happening. And I think that was the biggest revolution. And this one is very dear in the sense that emotionally this was really, really great. When you meet someone in a dinner and they explain, oh, you work in OutSystems. Yeah, I did the training, and now I used to be a geography teacher or an unemployed geography, and now I did a course and I'm a developer, I have a career. So this emotional side of, you are not cutting jobs of developers because you do faster, you're actually giving a chance for other people to have a career, and you're allowing people that are professionals to do much more, do the basics and beyond. So I think this emotional matters a lot.
I realized, that happened. There were companies even that create like boot camps to convert. I remember a boot camp like, okay, if you are engineer, doesn't matter which engineer you course you take out, you probably already have the mindset to think logically. So just take a OutSystems boot camp and you will be able to create the software. That is not possible with high code. With high code, you need to go deep to some of the concepts. And OutSystems, a low-code platform, end up by abstracting some of that complexity, but at the same time gives you a visual way for you to make the logic in an easy way.
Yeah, and that was the key for the success he had and has. And it was kind of the game changer, is making it visual, making it simpler. There was always this kind of a push to make sure that he was not just abstracting technology. He was not just he was also trying to map the business easier. Because in the end of the day, programming is something that is fairly new. If you think in the big scheme of humanity, that's new. And it's bottom-up, bits and bytes, getting more abstract. So we always try to make sure that we understood that, okay, it's not just another layer of abstraction. It's actually saying what the business wants, what is the flow you want to build, what is the interface. And then the platform will make that into technology, because it's business transforming into bits and bytes and not bits and bytes becoming less abstract.
I see it as a next step of, like, we don't in high code, we don't make code in ones and zeros, right? Like we need to make it in JavaScript or in Java or C, but even C, maybe like there are levels of types of languages that are more abstract from the machine. And then comes the low code. The low code even make the biggest level of abstraction on top of that.
And that alone brought all this speed that we gain. And speed was one of the key things we were always looking for. But the other was also the talent. You need to invest less. You need to have less technical knowledge to be able to still build the same business value. So that.
And then you can focus on as you're saying, can focus on the business problems instead of being worried about how to connect front end to the database or how to make some authentication security stuff. Like that is pre-built. Is all that is most of the times the same. So focus on the functionality instead
that's what matters. And there's space for the low-level technologies. Sometimes there are things that need to be so optimized, or sometimes you're really building something that was never built. And for that, the traditional technologies are good because they give you that control. But most of the times, you're not building that. You're not building something new. You're creating a version of something that already exists. I always thought about this. For example, when we introduced the mobile development in OutSystems, you talk with people and they say, no, we want to build this unique way of doing home banking. But deep down, you know that, and 60% is already defined by Revolut and Monzo. So what you're looking for is something that assembles, the basis. And now you can think about what's unique about your bank. So
you want to use about that, like if an enterprise, and sometimes normally the enterprise are not as fast as, for example, a startup adopting innovation. And this is aligned with low code, because when the innovation get to the low code platform, is already a standard, so is already in the right stage that the enterprise trust to adopt. If an enterprise company, or at least a big enterprise company, want to be in the edge of the innovation, or that company is creating that innovation, or the company doesn't want to risk to get to that level of innovation because there are some risks associated to that.
And you get to be an enterprise because you built something that was good and you were able to scale it and grow to get to that level. That means the base of a big enterprise is that they're running something that is already mature. It's critical to them. So that means they're not reinventing the wheel every time. So there'll always be a bit of R&D, the edges, where you're really trying something new if you dare to. But the 99% is...
the core need to be stable, need to be secure, need to be down. And that proved that.
And I think that's also where low-code still has even more space to grow. That is making sure that you give the flexibility that this enterprise software needs, but keeping it reliable, keeping it like you don't mess up with the core, but it can't also be crystallized. So that means you really need to have this edge. But anyway, we can expand this
we could
for hours.
Continue. Just one thing that I remember also, one thing that I noticed that sometimes was a challenge to sell the platform was actually for the developers. Like the developers used to have the mindset, no, I still want to have control of my code. That was one of the things that you thought on the process level, how to solve.
Absolutely. In both lives, in OutSystems, I had to worry about that. When I was more in the field, in this, selling the technology, let's call it by what it is, this was the biggest friction. Because you had to prove that you would bring value faster, and this would, the ROI would make sense. But there was a moment where we didn't want to deliver the service. Okay, you could bring a partner, but there's a level of success. Like the ultimate value of OutSystems is when the customer uses it on its own, because that's when it really grows, and that's when they, can go with all the speed, because they don't depend on anyone. They just have. So this barrier of I get that you are fast, but then now I need to convince my people. That was tough. What I typically try to do was, it was not about skills, obviously. It was about mindset.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was easier to just poke around and say, who has the right mindset? Like, sometimes even just asking people, how's the business going? And you see if they answer about the actual business of the company or about the latest deployment and whatever they are programming. So just understanding where their head is, immediately tell me, this is a good fit to be in the pioneers.
This is worried about the business and not just the bits and bytes.
So if they have the eyes on the ball, they think about the benefit, then they are a bit more pragmatic, and this is where low code would make sense. And then it's a snowball, because if you have a group of people that suddenly are 5 times or 10 times faster, everybody needs to adapt.
Then their own, like even the ones that are skeptical, they now I cannot go with this velocity doing things manually or in high code, so they end up by being convinced. The evidence was there, and then once you start using it, you love it. But for me, like as a former developer, it made sense, because for me it was about what you build and the output, what you can achieve,
and it's fun. And don't think me wrong, I remember building stuff that was low level and it's a challenge. But once you do it, it's like,
you do it once, you do it twice. Then the third, fourth, then you don't want to do it again.
That is like, this is boring. So that means even on that, it means in low code you'll have space to build those low level, the perfect thing. But that's in the 1%. For everything there is just a repetition of something that exists. It's much faster. But it's about trying it. Once you try it, I think it picked up. Architects were also hard because they were thinking about the big picture, etc. But again, the more push they had in the beginning, the bigger
win
we had, and they would be rooting for us. So it was fun.
And then after OutSystems, what was the name of the other company?
So once I left OutSystems, it was 10 years. From the 10 million revenue to the 10 billion valuation, I felt like, I'm gonna do a pause. I'll rest a bit. But this was January 2020. So being stopped when there's a COVID and you can't go anywhere is not really a thing. So I joined a company that I had a relationship with them for a while. It was more about growing, but at that moment was joining them in April 2020, a company that is selling their products to the travel industry.
In the middle of COVID.
In the middle of COVID. So it's slightly different from doubling the size of a company every year. It was about, we have 400 people. We don't want to lose them. We want to keep these jobs. Back then, if you look to all the layoffs today, it looks like everybody just fired. But back then, it was really personal. It was, we can't lose people. So it was about how you can really reinvent this brilliant experience that they have into this new world where nobody knew if it would be 3 months or 3 years. But that, I think I learned a lot on those 2 years. First, because it's an amazing industry. But it was the challenge of to keep doing surviving and then thriving in this changing market. There was a couple of hard decisions we had to do. One was we had big projects, multi-million, but it was about it's no longer time for R&D. Trying new stuff now. It's about fulfilling those contracts because the risk of them being canceled was high. Nobody had money, nobody was flying. So it was about like efficiency, and that was key.
Yeah.
And when everybody understands there's a crisis, everybody change faster. So that was hard, but at the same time, it happened. And the other angle was even repositioning the product. So this was about efficiency. So basically, we do biometrics, face recognition, to let people through, for example, the border. And the big project was about putting this across the full airport, meaning you would not talk or touch anything. You would just be recognized and move forward. Before COVID, it was about efficiency. So imagine Portela, he serves multi-million people per year. With this efficiency, you could add like 40% more. That means you could delay by a decade building a new airport. Then everybody starts flying. That doesn't cut. So the angle, and Emirates was actually, I think I can name it. Yeah, it was public. It was funny to work on a new angle for the same. So it's no longer efficiency, but then it was about, okay, if you look to the product, you actually can travel without touching or talking with anyone. And that proves that it's the safest way to travel in the world during COVID. And that was the respin. We just, there's a different angle for the same product. And we had to look to a smaller portfolio of products to be cost efficient. We start selling to the borders. Anyway, it was an angle of find the core of what you're doing it well, so you can navigate something that nobody can tell you what's the future. So you make your own decisions. So it worked well. I think they had an amazing exit, I think, last year. So it was good. So it was hard lessons.
One thing that I can see that it should be maybe it was hard, but at the same time it helped thinking in a different way. Maybe in the other products that you have after. Is about the sense of urgency that you're saying. Like when the companies when a company is in a situation like that need to, they are forced to make decisions, they are forced to define the right way, is totally different than when everything is okay and you need to make a decision. And in this second situation that I'm saying, easily you delay that decision. You want to validate everything, and then the velocity of the company it just lost the speed. So
completely.
Having the sense of urgency, even when everything is okay, probably is a good.
You need this kind of a crisis. Comparing the two, Visionbox and OutSystems, I remember trying to do some changes. Like the mindset, like we need to talk about the business, not just the IT, for example. And it's much harder to change the mindset when everybody feels like, come on, we're growing. What are you talking about? Like, Marcio, are you crazy?
Is okay.
We are growing and doubling every year. Like, why do we need to change? So sometimes there's this illusion that what got you here will take you from here. So in that sense, yes, when you have a global crisis, it becomes very... People pay attention when you say, what got us here? It won't continue. So we do need to change. Anymore. So it does become change management becomes easier when there's this notion of crisis. But I think every company, even when the tide is rising, you need to be very careful because you need to see if the tide keeps accelerating, and you need to check around because the tide rises for everyone. Like in low code, okay, the tide was rising, but all the others were growing with us, so you need to stay ahead. So you never rest.
It's completely, you never rest. When you think you can relax, if you relax, something will not work. It's a matter of time.
I have that issue of after when you pass through hypergrowth, you start creating this sense of urgency because you get used to the notion like you build a strategy, but 6 months in the future, either it didn't work and you need to find a better one, or it worked and that means it's all news. So you always have this notion that if you start feeling at ease, like you're missing something, you need to go. So, but I think it's a good thing. That's what makes people progress. But it is a lot of effort.
Yes. So next, FinTech OS.
I met Theo, the founder, and it was hard not to go there after that because one of the things I left unfinished, let's say, when I left OutSystems was this notion of we are an horizontal platform, that it's a way to build what people want. And my thesis was always that there's a big angle of if you verticalize, meaning you have all this power, but build what the business wants. Don't give them just a tool. Build what they want and then use the tool to evolve it. And Fintech West was doing right that. They had a low-code platform, but that was not the key. They had a verticalized solution for banking and for insurance. And for me, it was like, I know this problem, and this is a problem I want to solve. So this was kind of one of the attractions, even though I always like the idea of helping Portuguese companies grow. But this case was like, I'm going to do something I believe in. And it was a different kind of challenge. So they were very successful, but there was kind of a growing and spreading. So that means there was too many flavors and too many customers. So it was this exercise of looking back to, again, nobody sees the crisis, but you need to say, you can't just be doing 1,000 things. So what is the one thing that we can absolutely be the best in the world doing it? And that thing needs to be repeatable, so otherwise you won't have a market. And it needs to be valuable. And in this case, is when you're in financial services, it's easy to be close to the capital, so it was valuable. And the other angle was we need to make sure that this is a need that keeps evolving in time. Like it's not just a one time you solve it and it's it. No, and this was where looking to the broad of all the things Fintech West was doing, we found the angle of putting new financial products in the market. That's something they did multiple times, so that means there was a repetition, and clearly this was something that the market needed so much. So we just bet on that. We basically had to build I don't want to say a new product because it was kind of a redesigning the experience of the existing product, but with a different philosophy. It was about what is the part that everybody needs? That was putting new financial products in the market, and then who will be doing this? And that was kind of the game changer. Like, I want to build an experience that I don't want anyone from Fintech West to be involved on doing this. I want the customer
to be the client we were talking this before, because before you make that change, before you focus on that core that the client will be able to do it by himself. The product was a mix of product and services, right? And if the company provide a product and then a customization, that doesn't grow. Is that a product? Like it depends.
Where
a
do you
mix
draw
of
the
the things.
There's two, and this is a very typical challenge in Europe. When I talk with CPOs from the US, they typically already start with the notion of, no, I want a small problem that repeats a lot. So that's clear. For some reason, well, there's good reasons for that. In Europe, there's more this, let's build a product that does, like an octopus. It does a lot of things, and all of a sudden you have too many to drag along. It has this issue that when you have this kind of more of an accelerator with a lot of customization, first is the way you sell it. It's not as efficient because it is easy to sell because you will always promise whatever.
Yeah. Because you can do it.
You can do it
specifically for the client.
But when you actually to look to the economics of how you actually fulfill that, it's not so great because you will always be spending a lot of time in customization. Sometimes you make these decisions about how we can invest this because this will be reusable, and then it's just
that client.
And that's the first impact. That's the most obvious, and it's like no, it's harder to sell if it's standardized, but then it's efficient. For me, the biggest problem is what comes after. There is, when you think about the lifetime of this customer, unless it's like 95% productized, when you think about evolving it, it's very hard because they have actually 60% product and 40% customization. That means upgrades become a nightmare. Justifying this subscription, because in their heads is like, okay, if I don't get upgrades, why am I paying so much?
Yeah, I pay a subscription if I have most of the product customized to me.
Yeah. So that means
if I pay for the services.
So the angle is always finding what is that unique solution for a very valuable problem that is repeatable, so you can sell it. And then the second angle is make sure that you keep it clean and repeatable, so that the value that you deliver keeps growing. And every time you have a new version, you can just deploy it, and it will not destroy the multiple installations or clients. And it's, again, I think the difference is as a CPO, you need to make sure is that you make that picture clear, you show the numbers, but then you need to be a pain in the neck because you need to be the guy that thinks about the long term and always reminding that, that might sound good for this quarter, but I'm thinking about 2 years from now, we need to be 10 times bigger, and this is a decision that won't get us there. So there's this balance of keeping everybody thinking about the long term, but it pays off.
And how you convinced the company to make that was important, that they needed to focus in that specific core of the functionality instead of having a bigger range of functionalities. That will probably need more investment, maybe during some time, and having a return in the future instead of.
It's tough. Typically, you need to divide and conquer. To be honest, everybody needs to. There's an emotional and a rational part of convincing a company. The rational needs to be transparent for everyone. That means you need to explain that with numbers that, okay, this model, the current model, if you continue like this, is not possible. It's just not possible because you will always have only 10% margin or whatever. So you need to.
Yeah, actually, the repetition is probably it was easy to show that didn't scale, right?
Then you need to get the kind of the emotional side. That is, you need to show the actual examples. When you say in theory, okay, this will be impossible to upgrade, people say, yeah, everything is doable. When you have a customer shouting and he has an issue in production and you don't have a way to fix it because it's very unique, that's a good moment to remind that this strategy won't solve the past, but it will make sure we have a better future. So there's an emotional moments that you need to leverage. On the other side, you need to divide. You can't just all of a sudden say, let's forget the past, let's build a new thing. No, you need to create a small group of people that believe in this vision and start building the future. Because once the future is there, once you have like in this case, we start rebuilding a part of the product. First, they said it was not possible to do that, make the customers do the work on their own. And then you actually do prototypes and you show that it's possible. Then they say, okay, it's impossible to build it. Okay, then you find a small team and you build it. And they say, okay, but will people buy this? And you say, okay. And
let's try to find the client.
And then you get this first transaction. So I think it's always about don't try to convince everybody with the arguments. Make the ROI, the arguments, but then make sure that you always get the smaller group of people that are passionate about it, that believe in it. And you build it in stages.
But for you to have that small group of people, you need to have some kind of approval from the company to get that budget.
No, that's why you need to show the plan.
Exactly. Okay.
No, this is not. Let's do it this.
Yeah, behind the thing.
No, you make the point, and that's the roadmap, and that's why it's important to show that you build on the roadmap. The investment keeps growing as you prove more points, because then it's easy. If you land 2 deals and you show that.
Yeah,
it's because of the new thing, then it's easier to get the next level of investment. So it's about change management, and a lot is people's emotions. Weirdly enough, like 10% is building the business case in the direction, but then it's making sure that everybody feels passionate about making it happen.
Yeah,
it's the hard part.
One thing that we talked before in that core, one thing that was very important was also the experience of the core itself, right? We were talking at lunch, like nowadays there are products for everything, and sometimes there are products that are the same, and the ones that differentiate itself is the ones that will be easy to. For me,
I do believe that any industry, any niche market, when the market starts, you probably will have whoever gives the best functionality or the biggest return on the,
or sometimes more functionality.
Starts winning. But ultimately, when the market stabilizes, the leader will be the one with the best experience, because functional will be more or less the same. But then it's about who removes friction from that. And I believe in this because I look to automotive, and Tesla made a big impact, for example, not just because of the range of the cars. It's a full experience. You look to mobile phones. Everybody was trying different things until Apple showed this is how you build it. And from now on, this is the standard. And so for me, I think the pattern is whoever has the best experience ends up dominating the market. So that's kind of a core belief, and practice keeps showing that it might be something there. So that means when I think about the value equation of a product, I think about, okay, what is the problem I'm solving? How can I solve it better than anyone? But then it's how I make sure this is the perfect experience. And in this smaller product we built, we created basically we call it a product factory. So you would be building a financial product, configuring the next insurance, etc. And we wanted to make it so simple that instead of this problem of today, that because it's complex, you would have someone in the business defining the business case, then asking another person that would go and make the details, put in the requirements, and then shipping over to IT that will translate business into technology, probably will then call agencies or partners to build it. And after a few months, maybe the idea is still the same and it gets built. So the idea was that what if I give the perfect experience to the actual person that wants to solve the problem, make him build it very easily, and let's let the platform do all these hoops of building the technology. And I think that made the difference. It's still making, so the product is now in the market, it's evolving. So I do believe if you do the right experience and you really nailed on you're solving the problem better than anyone else, you will always come to the surface as the market leader.
Yeah. It will, as you're saying, at some point, if the functionality is the same, the ones that make it less friction, or that make it in. I wish in enterprise software and things that are more internally, this concept also exists, because there is no scale in employee software or internal software. Like you sometimes make a software for your employees. It can be 100, can be 5,000, but this limit is the quantity, and the user experience in that kind of softwares normally it became less important. But
I think there's value there. Of course, it's not as extreme as so in that axis of is it consumer or employee. I think typically we think like consumers, they have a chance, it's their money, so everybody just says, experience needs to be perfect. Employees, I think there's this belief that, they are being paid, they will use whatever.
Yeah, they will not go to use other platform because there is no other platform.
Yeah, it's like, but I think if you really look down, there's a lot of ROI on doing a good experience. I'll give you an example. We had the oil terminal. So there's a company that stores oil. I won't say the name. It's in the Netherlands, and it's the biggest one. You can just find it very quickly. And they were using a big Excel kind of a solution just to introduce the shipping. Like you have a big oil carrier, the ship coming in, and you put where you will actually connect, what are the pipes to discharge, etc. And this was always a big Excel. And they would say, okay, but this is 30, 40 people that do this job, so I want the same experience. I don't want to teach them. And it was a long fight. Conversation. But the fact was, I remember having the conversation then with the IT leader. After it was live and we did the experience, etc., it was this angle of, it was not obvious, but now those people that were doing the job for decades, they can do it. And they can do it fast. Some of them still like the old ways, but it's okay. But the point was, now you can actually hire people and retain people for that job.
Okay.
Because nobody was coming in.
It's a good point.
They would spend 6 months just playing on the side, not to mess up, because the experience was so bad. So now you have a new system that can hire someone that understands the business and can just use. So there is ROI for employees. You can argue that some people can actually, love their job, and that has value. But the efficiency, how easy you can onboard them, that's all value to the business. I do think it's value to people, but that's something that typically we don't measure. Right? We don't measure somebody actually having a happier day. I do worry as a product guy. But besides that, the love you get for doing the perfect experience, I think there's a lot of ROI of doing that the right way. Yeah,
and it's really a good example, because it's kind of extreme. Like some of the internal softwares are something more simple. That one, from what I understood, is like a heavy task that they needed to do. So the quantity of training that I suppose was necessary, and the happiness of the employees, they probably don't spend so much time doing that kind of work.
Besides the stress, that is, you learn how to use that system that is giving no guidance to do it well. So that means in the back of your head, you're probably hesitating to make decisions because you want to make sure you didn't put the value in the wrong place. The moment that the system will help you, you actually relax and can do a better job.
Other things.
So it does matter.
I think we are getting without time, but we still didn't talk about your next adventure. And maybe you can. What you are expecting about this new adventure in AirHelp, and maybe the future. What you think about the future, and like we still didn't talk about, like, there is low code now, but there is
Where it's going.
Yeah, where it's going, low code, and AI is taking. We were talking also before, like AI is taking the easy systems, and it's still not in the what we're calling
the enterprise.
But the critical is, I think no one is still using AI to generate like something with a prompt to generate a high critical system, but it's getting there maybe.
I'll pick on that one because I'm very passionate about it. When you think about low code, the traditional coding, the AI, I think there's space for everyone. Mm-hmm. Not all code is built the same, as said earlier, and that means the criticality, the complexity that is on it, there's a range. Mm-hmm. And let's ignore the other dimensions, just the range. If you think about simple apps, mostly of them, they are just a repeat of something that was already built somewhere else. Those are, they're doomed to be AI. Mm-hmm. Like, you will just create something that exists, a copy, by merging, everything that went into the model when it was trained. And I think that is okay. That means most of what was, I don't know, like 5 years ago, we were thinking, okay, no code, this is the space for them. I think that market is gone. That is AI, and like, it will keep evolving. Mm-hmm. In the high end of the enterprise, we still have all the old languages working. Mm-hmm. COBOL is still out there. Yeah. So I'm sure that there's already a lot of funerals to COBOL, etc., but it's still there. and people get rich nowadays if they know COBOL. So in that sense, I think there's still a range of critical systems that they won't just go away, and they will need to be maintained, and that will be through the traditional technologies. All in between, and this is a big range, there's more and more critical applications. And I think there's two things. One is there's a sweet spot here in the middle where low code is the master. You're not really reinventing the wheel, so that means you can use low code, and you have control. Because it's all fun and games when you're vibe coding and building a lot of stuff, and then there's a headache when somebody else will need to change it, or yourself, because you barely saw 1% of that code. So there's a space where you need to keep in control, because it's not about that flashy initial prototype, that flash application that will be gone in a month, and that's AI world. There's this application will keep evolving because your business evolves. So in that space, I think low code is the way to go. I think this doesn't need to be a boundary that keeps rising. I think there's a place where they just mix. And this is where low code with AI has an angle. Because the issue I see with low code, and I understand why they do it. There's so many lines of code in the world that you can just train the models and the output code. But that's so hard to read. If you've been a developer, you know what I mean.
You will generate that code. You will generate hundreds and hundreds of lines.
How many times you look to a code, you need to refactor and just say, "I'll start from scratch." So, if you keep going up in the critical stuff with AI, I think you will hit that. Of course, you will improve. I think the sweet spot is where you will generate code that is readable. Meaning, when you need to open that dark box that is AI and see, okay, how did they get into this? How can I tweak this without exploding the whole business? I think this is where it would be much nicer if you open the box and you see actually a visual code that you understand. Yeah. So generating low code is the way forward. So there would be still space for humans building the low code, but then there's a space where you can orchestrate the low code generation and you evolve it. I think that will be the way to go. I understand it's not easy because there's more code than low code in the world. You can train it. So I would see two options. One is, whoever is the leader of low code has the advantage. They have more applications. The other angle, and this is less puristic from a low coder, let's say, but is just work around it. Use the code to teach your model, but then make sure that you teach your model to reverse engineer all that bunch of code to actually nice visual language, because I think that would be a game changer. Yeah. And I think, and this is
be able to be able to keep evolving, because
it will never stop. You'll never hit the wall. Yeah. I think that's the way to go for the traditional world. So I'm here talking about applications, the world of the last 20, 30 years. You build software and there's this range. If we think about the next generation, because in the future, I doubt that in, I don't want to say how many years, but everybody checks their phone today, right? Then you go to a mobile app. I don't think that's the future. I think in the future we'll have an agent talking with you.
Yeah. Do we have phones in some years? Maybe maybe don't. Maybe
I don't know where we'll put it, if it's inside your head or in your pocket, but the fact that you will have something that will be feeding you information. And I think if you think about, this is a new stack of technology. So that means there's a moment we need to think about, we are no longer just building apps and software. We are building this new type of interface. And I think this is where the paradigm of low-code about, let's simplify the patterns of innovation so you can assemble them. Let's make it easier so that humans can do the orchestration instead of writing lines of code. I think this is where the concept of low-code can still prevail in this new stack of technology. I'm fascinating to see how it goes. I think a lot of technology will be used to build this new type of interfaces, but when it's clear the direction, when we have the iPhone moment of these
about
agents,
how will be the interface, right?
We were talking about websites. They looked all different 20 years ago, and all of a sudden we start understanding that no, there's few patterns, and that's it. This way of interacting with AI will explode in all directions, and then it will come together. And when it comes together, it will be easy to abstract the way you build it. And but still, again, there will be some difference because it won't be a one size fits all. You will have some patterns to adapt to each one of us. But anyway, there's this future of low code there as it grows and mixing with AI, and there's the next level of, it's no longer about app development. It's about the next generation of interfaces, and we need to be ready.
And one thing for sure that will happen in the interfaces part is that there will be less interface, like the quantity, the more automation and less interface. Less the need of the user to go through 10 pages to do a task, and more automatic thing happening behind.
In the end, what never changes is the human, right? Our chemistry is subtle many millennia, and it hasn't changed. So it's just the inputs that get through your eyes and ears to influence. So I think in the end, it will be the interface that will be talking with you, giving visual input, auditive. If you think about it, most of our brain evolved to be a social being. That means you would be interacting with people. Visually recognizing the face, hearing what people were saying, understanding from the tone what I was meant. So all the brain was evolved for this thing, and you have emotional reactions to that. So I imagine probably the interface
will evolve
backwards to us.
Yeah, to be kind of a human being. Talking
and I think that will be in the end what will prevail. It's closer to what us as organics, we are just animals. What is our main way of interacting and make it, the technology adapt to us, which just makes sense. If again, I work in technology, but I'm not in love with the technology. I'm in love with the people and the impact. So in that sense, I feel like AI is also the chance to, we do fear it and lose control, but this is a chance to make sure actually, it's from the human perspective that the interface should be done, not just abstracting bits and bytes. No, I think this will be a chance to have a more interactive, adapt to each one of us, and
maybe more natural, for us.
What happens behind the scenes, how that connects to all the COBOL, that's a different problem.
Yeah, it might still there.
It will be there.
AI will go there, grab some information, but
nobody will put the AI running the nuclear plants and the bank accounts, etc. So it will be there.
Okay. I think we are getting without time. Thank you for being here. Good luck for Air Help.
That will be fun. That will be fun. But maybe the next podcast I'll explain how you move from the next podcast successful company to a hyper
for you explaining how it was there helping that company. So thank you to listening guys to today. We have the lucky to have you here talking about your experience on VP of products and what are the main challenges on that. We learn a lot. Thank you. See you on the next one.
Thank you.